Hello, everyone. So, 3 weeks from today, on September 30th, 2019, the first National Limb-Girdle Muscular Dystrophy Conference begins in Chicago. I had a video last month with one of the other people who's organizing this conference. But today I wanted to give a little bit of the preview of the conference, what it's about, what kind of presentations are going to be presented, who it's geared for, and I'll put the link to the conference website. But there's still actually a few days left to register in case you're thinking of going. You still have the opportunity. So, first of all, the target audience for this conference, there's a lot of scientific conferences out there, but this one is really directed to patients. Now, it's going to have a lot of scientific content by researchers, doctors who are working and testing possible treatments for these diseases. But it's going to be at a relatively non-technical level because it's very important that patients understand what's happening, and most importantly what their role needs to be in order to move forward to get to treatments. You can't test a therapy or run a clinical trial without patients. Finding patients for rare diseases is very difficult, can be very difficult to enroll for clinical trials. And so really what this conference is about is to bring all the parties together, patients, researchers, clinicians, companies developing treatments, as well as advocacy organizations to get them in the same place, have them meet each other, see things from each other's perspective. So the way the conference is actually organized, there's a schedule on the website that I'll link to, but there's essentially 4 different types of presentations. There's what's called the plenary presentation, which is just kind of a fancy conference term of saying that there's only one presentation going on at a given time. And what this series is going to do throughout the 2 days of the conference is to go through the process by which treatments are developed and tested, and all of the elements that need to happen for the treatment to be developed and approved. And that includes things like patient registries, studying the natural history of the disease, to know what you're dealing with, figuring out what you're going to test, to see, if a patient is made better by some treatment you think might help. Then how clinical trials are actually organized, and there will be presentations both by people who are running clinical trials as well as patients who have been in clinical trials. As well as some current ideas that are being worked on for therapies. Now, then the rest of the sessions of the conference are going to be what's called breakout sessions, which means that there's, in this case, going to be 3 different presentations happening at the same time in different rooms. So one of these is going to be focused largely on genetics. muscular dystrophies, including limb-girdle muscular dystrophies, are all genetic diseases. So for a person to really be diagnosed, and in particular for them to be enrolled in a clinical trial, requires a genetic analysis so you know exactly what gene is mutated, therefore what specific disease that they have, as well as, in many cases, the specific mutation, that is, mistake in their DNA that's causing them to have the disease. Another track is going to be on various ways of managing the disease. We don't have cures yet, but there are a number of things that you can do to manage symptoms, including some types of muscular dystrophy can affect the heart and breathing. Okay, but that is something that actually can be managed very successfully for many people. And it's important to know, what the protocols are for that, how to assess whether there needs to be a medical intervention, and what to do to keep track of that. Also things like exercise and physical therapy and stretching. How much physical activity is good versus harmful to your muscles. How do you what's the appropriate approach to physical therapy to stretch, to maintain flexibility. Then another track is going to be sort of the living with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy track. And basically what that is about is, okay, and if we get effective treatments, hopefully at some point in the near future, that's great, but everybody living with the disease has to live their life now. And they shouldn't let their medical condition hold them back unnecessarily. So that's an opportunity to hear from peers, that is, other patients, in different stages of their life. There's one on focused on families where the child has a form of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. There's one on young adults with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. How do you navigate school, getting an education, starting your career, living independently. Then there's another one on people who, are muscular dystrophy patients who have families, which you may or may not know. Many people with LGMD, have families, have children. Most of the time it's actually recessive, so it's very unlikely that the children would inherit it. But parenting is challenging enough anyway, especially if you have a chronic disease and disability. How do people navigate that? And the other thing is that a lot of the speakers in the conference, both in the sort of the living with LGMD track, but also in some of the scientific presentations, are people living with the disease. And that's important, not only for education, but also as an example and, if you will, a role model about what someone can achieve who has one of these diseases. So it's been a lot of work for me and my co-organizers. I've learned a lot about collaborating with people, getting people on the same page, keeping good lines of communication. Um, but it's been, very enriching, very worth it. I'm very excited, and we're going to try to film some of the sessions and, eventually have those posted for viewing. We realize that it isn't physically possible for everyone who is interested in the world to even fit in the room, let alone get to Chicago for the conference. And so we want to have something to offer people, as well as I'm going to try, time permitting, to film a couple short videos at the conference. So yes, it's very excited, and I hope to see many of my viewers there. So thank you for watching, and hope life is treating you well wherever you may be. Take care and best wishes.